All right, in today's lesson, we're going to look at our second special case of polynomial multiplication. But to get started, let's go ahead and review what we learned in the last lesson. So for a warm-up, please describe the shortcut for finding the answer to a binomial that is being squared. Then use it to find the answer. So what we learned in our last lesson is I would describe it as you would take 3 steps. You would square the first term. I'm going to skip a step here. I'm going to go down to step 3. You're going to square the last term. I'm going to make extra note here that it will always be positive. And then the middle term is going to come from multiply the 2 terms together and double. All right, so let's follow our advice. Square the first term. 2x, the quantity squared, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. I'm going to skip the last step. Square the last term. -4 and -4 is a positive 16. The middle term, I'm going to multiply -4 times 2x is -8x, and then I'm going to double. So -16x. Let's just check it real quick just to see that it is in fact working. And I do 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times -4 is -8x. -4 times 2 is another -8x. And -4 and -4 makes positive 16. And I get -8x. There's 2 of them, so -8x doubled is -16x. All right. That is special case number 1. Hopefully, we are good to go. All right, special case number 2. The product of a sum and a difference. These are also known as conjugates. So what is a conjugate? A conjugate is, as you can see an example B there, when you're multiplying, not like we did last time. We're not doing A plus B times A plus B, right? We're not doing that. All we're doing is we're changing one of them from an A plus to an A minus. So all of these, you wouldn't call it opposites of each other, because if they were opposites, both signs would be different. The A and the B are the same. It's just one of them is an addition, one of them is subtraction. So the product of these is going to do something predictable. So what I would like you to do is kind of like we did on the last lesson, go through example 1, do your multiplication, look for the pattern, and then maybe even start to apply it by the time you're done. All right, so go ahead and start foiling these together and see what you get. Go ahead and pause the video and join us in a second. All right, if I do the FOIL, I do x times x is x squared. X times -3 is -3x. And then positive 3 times x is a positive 3x. 3 times -3 is -9. When I add them together, -3 and positive 3 cancel out. I'm simply left with x squared minus 9. I'm going to do part B. A times A times -b, B times A, positive AB, B times -b, -b squared. Negative A times B and positive A times B cancel out. I'm left with A squared minus B squared. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. -4 times 2 is -8x. And then -4 and 4 is -16. Once again, it looks like our middle terms are going to cancel out, and I'm left with 4x squared minus 16. All right, so let's stop here and just sort of evaluate what we found. In each of these cases, they've done the exact same thing. The middle terms, when I do my O and I of FOIL, right, both times it has generated the opposites terms in the middle, a negative 3x and a positive 3x. And if you think about the math that we're doing, that makes perfect sense. Each time we're multiplying by an x and a 3, one of the times it's a positive, one of the times it's a negative. Each of the times I'm multiplying by an a times a negative b and a times a positive b, leading me to a squared minus b squared. This is also known as, the answer to this is known as the difference, and it's called a difference because it's subtraction, of two, I bet you can figure out why there's two, squares. So the difference of two squares is what you get when you multiply conjugates together. A plus b times a minus b will always turn into a squared minus b squared. So once again, we have a shortcut at our disposal. Please, please do not forget, you already know how to multiply. This is not replacing knowing to multiply. The biggest trick you're going to have in any special case, whether it's this topic or another one, is understanding that it's limited in use, and you need to be able to recognize when you can and when you can't use it. And don't have using the shortcut make you forget what we learned to start, because that's, we already know how to multiply. It's FOIL. All right. D. Let's use the shortcut. The shortcut simply looks like I'm going to square the first term, 25x squared. I'm going to square or multiply the negative 7 and the positive 7 and get negative 49, and I can ignore multiplying the middle two terms together because they're just going to cancel out. So if I recognize that, then I can use that to my advantage and get the answer much quicker. So describe the shortcut when multiplying binomials that are conjugates. I guess I would say square the first term, because it's the exact same number. Square the second term, because they're the exact same number. And I guess for a third step, I would say subtract the two. Subtract the results. So once again, if we look at our kind of example that gives us the rule, we're going to follow it. We're going to just look at either one of them. So I'm going to square a and get a squared. I'm going to square b and get b squared, but I'm going to make sure I subtract in between, a squared minus b squared. Only to be used in this limited situation. Okay, but this is a very useful skill. I used it in a lesson just the other day in accelerated precalculus and regular precalculus. It's something that comes up all the time. Okay, multiplying conjugates. All right, let's have you just practice a few and then check back in when you're done, and let's see if you got them right. Again, please use the shortcut, and if you want to verify a couple of them, just make sure you did it right. With FOIL, go right ahead. All right, so here's how quickly this should be. X squared, 25, x squared minus 25. X squared minus 100. X squared minus a half times a half is a fourth. Again, I'm doing the shortcut because they're conjugates. These are conjugates, so I'm going to square the first term. I'm going to square the last term and subtract with a subtraction, or put a subtraction between them. And then finally, this one, the danger you're going to do, even if you're like, I got it, I'm not going to make any mistakes. The big danger is when you square this, a lot of people are going to kind of forget to square the coefficient too. So 2x, the quantity squared, is a 4 and an x squared. 3y squared is a 9 and a y squared. And we subtract them. Let's test this one using FOIL just to see. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 3y is a 6xy, and it's positive. Negative 3y times 2x is going to be a negative 6xy. And then a negative times a positive is going to be a negative. 3 times 3 is 9, y squared. My middle two cancel out, and I get my answer. All right. Again, it's pretty easy to use when these problems are right, like there's all there is. But you need to be prepared to use them like in the middle of any other like if I gave you a worksheet that had 25 multiplication problems and scattered in between just typical FOIL are some of these. You need to be able to spot these and use this lesson and not use it when you shouldn't. All right, this is known as multiplying conjugates together, a sum and a difference, and the answer is called the difference of two squares. Let me know if you need some help.